The topic of cheating at the professional level in CSGO, we're not concerned with whether people do it on public servers or in matchmaking. That's a totally different affair. But it's obviously an incredibly important issue if there are professional level players in offline play who are cheating using third-party software and as a result gaining results or winning out in situations where they shouldn't, and that it removes some of the legitimacy of what is a beautiful game, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, at the elite level. This would be a huge issue, not least because, as far as I know, it simply does not exist in other games. There have been rare cases of people online in other games or using certain exploits in certain ways, but not of actual widespread cheating, especially not at the pro level like this, in a modern day huge esports with events that have $1 million for them like the CSGO majors do. And so, even though I made another video, which I'll link up there, which was about the fact that essentially I broke down a lot of the reasons as to why an outsider like myself or someone who's not initiated into expertise in coding and cheat coding specifically could really actually totally determine whether someone's cheating and therefore then even know the technological ways of how you then catch them and how we can then stop it in that sense. I kind of argued in favor of why I don't think people like me can have that sense. And so I passed the buck up the ladder of hierarchy and responsibility to where I think it should be. So the middle ground between me and Valve is the tournament organizers. To a degree, I think they should take an active part in this and be actively looking for it and making sure that nothing can happen. But the ultimate responsibility should lie with Valve. They should be the ones. They're the developers of the game. They're the ones who run a lot of these things. They have access to all the software that we're talking about, as in the game itself and all the data behind it. And they're the ones who could set up traps or in some way analyze and seek out specific people who are very suspicious and then look for ways to see if these people are cheating. Ultimately, as I described in that video, I think it should be Valve who does it. But I want to address this topic of the cheating problem because you have to ask, first and foremost, is there a cheating problem? Like, I'm not 100% set that there is, but I constantly have this issue where I can't just let it go. I mean, I promised in the past, actually, on an episode of By the Numbers, that I would make this video, but it would be about Flusher because he's the most famously accused player, and a lot of people in the community thought he had very suspicious clips. Now, I've decided I'm not going to do that as the topic of the video. It's not going to be about Flusher because one area that I've realized I have a lot of influence in, which I don't want to be used in a negative manner, is if I retweet a specific clip of a pro who looks suspicious, or I make a video where I talk about, even if in the video I'm saying that the person's not cheating, unfortunately, it will probably spark a witch hunt, not through any of doing of my own, that will mean that people will take that player and they'll say, like if I say he's very suspicious, but I don't know if he's cheating, they'll just go the extra step. And they'll make a huge hate threat against this person. And at the end of the day, we have no software way right now of checking if the person is cheating. And so all we're seeing is suspicious clips. And essentially, I'm saying, I just would like some explanations for this, or I'd like to know what the fuck's going on. Or I'd like to know, I'd like people to look into this who are have more expertise than me. Unfortunately, other people won't do it that way. So even though in general, I don't think I should be held responsible for what other people do with my words in a way that I did not intend. So it doesn't stop me from speaking out in other senses. But I thought about it, and I think there's a more general way I can make the video without making it about Flusher. It's going to be about any pros that might cheat or any pros that have suspicious clips about them. I'm going to address the whole topic here. And so, first and foremost, the reason I've got a really bad cold. The reason why I think it's actually important to make a video like this, even though I've already done one about some of these topics, but not this specific one, is because I don't think it's enough to see a suspicious clip and just go, oh, well, that's suspicious. Guess we'll never know. Won't say anything more about that. Like there's a great saying that they have in the occult circles around ceremonial magic. And that's this kind of philosophy that the ceremonial magician is supposed to know, to will, to dare, and to keep silent. And the key reason why I put all these out there is because when you break it all down, it's like he's willing to know this universal knowledge or this special occult hidden information. He wills, like he's willing to actually go out there and actually try this stuff and to experience what his expression of his true soul or higher self or whatever is, to dare, to even have the guts to try and do this and to match up with crazy thoughts that are outside of the kind of natural hemisphere of what we think of as the ordinary reality. But then the key detail with that is to keep silent. And the idea is one of the concepts, and this is what the point of why I'm bringing this up, is one of the reasons you keep silent actually is because, I mean, you see stories all the time of people who like come back from some like out of body experience and they go around telling everyone, oh my God, like life isn't real and don't worry if you die, like your soul leaves your body. Not There's the problem. When you do that, those people didn't have your experience. So first of all, they can't appreciate it on any of the levels that you're explaining it. You probably can't articulate the experience because it was an experience or a hallucination, whatever it might have been. And really, ultimately, to get the same kind of message and import and significance out of it, they'd have to have that experience. So actually telling them that stuff doesn't really help. And in fact, actually might even steer people away from it or might make people think this whole area is bullshit. And so in that sense, the idea of to keep silent is because actually any special knowledge you gain, it's better if the other person finds out for themselves, or they go through something on their own situation, or they don't get some very base condensed version of it by you just trying to articulate it in words now. Instead, they try and seek out for things that are important to them. And if it happens to be in that area that they'll go in that area. You don't try to unduly influence them in that sense. Now, why I bring this up is because as a journalist, I think we have a different philosophy. All the first three parts are that great, to know, to will, to dare, but crucially is not to keep silent. It's to express yourself. Because I think it's actually very important when you see injustice or you see something fucked up or you just see an area where there's point A, point B, and there's this gap between them that logically a jump can't be made between, and everyone else in the world's pretending like there is no gap between them. They're connected. Or even worse, those two things are totally separate and there was never any connection between them. Or, oh, it's easy to make the jump. Just do this, and some weird rhetoric that they're saying or some logic that doesn't make sense. I don't like that. So personally, I'm going to speak in these scenarios. I mean, there's two great quotes I always think of from some journalists I admired on this exact topic. One is actually a Christopher Hitchens quote, and it's part of a bigger quote, but he just says, the grave will supply plenty of time for silence. So the idea that you can just shut up and think, well, listen, I'm going to be dead at some point in time, so at that point in time, I won't be giving my opinions anymore. Now's my chance to go ahead and do so and to potentially have a positive influence on the community in as much as I can provoke thought or ask why aren't these things happening and shine a light on them. There's another great quote, which will sound a bit pretentious in this context, but I think it's actually important when I go into the aspects of the fact that so little people in this industry are actively looking into this issue, which could be an enormous aspect of corruption if it indeed exists. If it doesn't, then we also need to look into it so we can allay the fears of people who are worried about these things. And that is this quote from George Orwell that says, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. So when I see these cheating clips and they get sent to me, and by the way, in terms of cheating clips, we'll rename those now because I don't know that these people are cheating, so we'll call them suspicious clips or suspected cheating clips. When these clips come to me of pro players, often in LAN matches, and I see them, I watch them. And I try to forget the name of the player, and I watch the clip, and I watch it over a few times, and I try to think, could there be anything going on dodgy in terms of the software here? Is there lag here? Is it tick right? All these factors people bring up. I try to do that, but that's the key thing. I look at it all like that, and I don't turn away. I don't just say, there's no cheating, so I don't need to see this clip, or, oh, are you just looking at clips again? Oh, you're just a paranoid conspiracy theorist, or, listen, how would anyone cheat? They'd have to have such big balls to do so, and besides, imagine if they got caught, their whole career would be ruined, and why would anyone cheat when there's so much money on the line? I don't say any of this rhetoric. I throw rhetoric out the window, and I look. I don't turn away. I don't avert my gaze because it's something I don't want to see and don't want to be true. And here's my problem. I'm going to say it right now. That is a huge problem in the industry of CSGO as an esport. The majority, the vast majority, I'm talking 90% or more of people in this industry who make their money from the esports industry of CSGO do not want to see these clips. Do not watch these clips. If you show them these clips, will actively attack you and will be hostile towards you in as much as saying all that rhetoric and even having this annoyed tone of like, why are you bringing that up again? You know these people can't cheat. These pro players have told me they don't cheat. They will actually actively be annoyed at it. And you can obviously understand there's a level to which they obviously don't want it to be true. I don't want it to be true, but that doesn't mean I avert my gaze. And unfortunately, I've got to tell you right now, guys, most of the people in the industry do avert their gaze, do turn a blind eye to it, refuse to look, and as a result, are not even open to the concept that these people actually could be cheating. They have just used rhetoric and all the same things we've heard again and again to explain away in their mind as to why they don't even have to look. And here's the problem. If they'd looked and they still came to the conclusion that none of it's the case, that would be at least better than what's going on right now. Because what's going on with these industry people is the same thing that's going on with the pros. When I've talked to many, many pros, every event I go to about cheating and about what they think about this other player here. And sometimes, you know what, I've got the balls. I'll sometimes ask them, ones that I'm friendly with, about players in their teams that I've got clips of that are very suspicious of them and ask them, what do you think of this? And here's the craziest thing. It's always the exact same level of ignorance in pros as in industry people. So here's the thing. The clips are out there and they're not super hard to find. And if you have an open mind, they will come to you. And these people choose not to look. And the reason why I can tell you that is because I have pros sometimes also who come the other way. They come to me and say, hey, you think people cheat in the scene? You think this player cheats? And I'll say to them, no, don't think he cheats. I think they're very suspicious clips. I'd like to know how you or that person would explain this in this particular sense, because this is a crazy looking clip, the sort I don't see from other players and haven't in the history of Counter-Strike. So can you explain why this looks really suspicious? Do you know what the number one answer in most of those cases is? If not to just give the simple rhetoric I've told you before, why would they cheat? They can't cheat. There's not even any way to cheat. Everyone checks the mice. If we ignore the rhetoric, the number one thing they tend to say to me is they can only go 1 or 2 clips deep. They might know a famous flusher clip, or they might know a really famous shocks clip, for example. I mean, there's some recently that people kept talking about. They might know these clips, okay. But the clips that they never know are just the ones that go a little bit deeper. So what I can tell is, even people who talk about flusher clips or whatever, they've only seen 1 or 2 flusher clips. They haven't even seen all the flusher clips. And remember, 99% of the flusher clips were long before DreamHack Winter 2014. So these are a long time ago, and in theory have no impact on now. Like, we'll never know what was going on in those clips. So long ago, we can't detect the guy who lived back then. We only know the flusher now. So the craziest part is, these people who will argue with me and tell me that there's no possible way, when I actually tell them, oh, what about this clip of this player here? They'll go, I haven't seen that clip there. And then you go, well, what about this other one over here? And they go, don't know, I didn't see that one. So it's actually ignorance. They themselves are also choosing to lock their mind off from this issue. Now, I will say one big problem the whole cheating thing has, which I did address in my other video, is that a massive, massive majority of the people who are showing you these clips and who are telling you there are cheaters are doing exactly that, telling you they're cheaters. They have their minds made up as well. They're going the other way. And they're looking for every clip that someone could be a cheater in. And some of them are ridiculous. Some of them aren't even anything. And they're claiming that that's just as good evidence as the other one. They're watering down their own argument. And even worse, some of them are doing stupid stuff like analysing what the person's face looked like as a clip went off. Whereas if you've got the clip and the clip's suspicious and it's incredibly insane, you don't know how they could do that in and of themselves. That's the evidence. You don't need to put any more circumstantial, interpretative bullshit on top of it. Stick with that. That's the evidence. Make that the case. Don't add in some other shit that will then scare people away by you seeming like an idiot or paranoid or a nutter in general. So unfortunately, a lot of idiots ruin the cause. And even worse, they don't understand all the shit I mentioned in that other video about being an expert about cheating. So I said all that stuff. I'm not an expert. I think there are very few people are. Even people who are programmers probably don't know about it. Then you need someone who's an expert in esports and about pro play and programming all on top of that. So that would narrow it down to a very small field of people. No. What happened was everyone just ignored that. People sent me like the same old clips. Some of them sent me old flasher clips from 2014. Again, not what I'm talking about. Loads of people said, I'm a cheat code. All that's like, didn't give any reasonable basis for who they were. Like, you could easily ignore all this shit out of hand. Even worse, some people said, you were looking for an expert? Well, I can tell you all these people cheat, and here's how. Their mouse, you tap them outside 3 times, and then the left 2 times, and that activates a secret. And like, come on, mate, this is not what I was talking about. This is exactly the sort of behavior I was arguing against, because this doesn't get us anywhere. This is bullshit. I want Valve, I want Tony organizers to collect data, to look for suspicious people, to track suspicious people, to get everything that's going on in the PC on that suspicious person, to set up traps for those people, and to really actually commit to the idea that if these pro players, professional esports players, cheat on LAN in the biggest professional tournaments in the world, then we are going to catch them. We are going to expose these people. We're going to ban them, and we're going to make sure other people do not even want to risk that, because these people are going to get fucked over, as they deservedly should. So I don't want it to be that these people are cheating. I often think to myself, is there any way this clip could be legit? Is there any way it's not as suspicious as it seems? Is it suspicious, but it's just a coincidence? I think that way myself, because guess what? I don't want it to be the case that these people cheat. I don't want to even have to think that they might cheat. Think of the history of all the esports games I've watched. Incredible Quake games, Counter-Strike going back to, well, I mean, there was only really tournaments like from 1.0 and 1.1 onwards. But even in the betas I played, and I played with people who were very good players, I know that you can be insanely good at esports games, competitive games, without cheats. I know that it's not necessary, and I know that there are even incredible pros who have some suspicious clips here, who could probably do it all, assuming they are in any way doing anything, they could do it all without cheats. It's not necessary. And so the fact that it's not necessary angers me even more. Because in that scenario, I want these people out the scene. I want these people exposed. I want us to track these people, to catch them, and to prove they are cheating. Not have to go off circumstantial stuff, to prove it. And then to make it so that no one else wants to cheat. And if they do, they know what the penalty is, and it's not that people will turn a blind eye and they can get away with it. Now, as I said in my other video, I'm not an expert in spotting cheaters, knowing how cheats work, or knowing what demo bugs exist or any other shit that might be out there. But as I said in that video, that's why I want Valve to take it. Because when I personally can do all I can do, I look at the clips, I look at the demos, and I see some utterly insane things. Things that, having played tens of thousands of hours Counter-Strike, I've never done anything like this. Things that I've seen incredible players who I've watched their whole career, and then some of the most skilled players, some of the best with flick shots, some of the best with smooth, slow tracking aim, some of the best with the AWP, some of the best in no-scopes, and they don't do any of this shit over their whole careers, or maybe like one clip exists. And yet there's a couple of people, there's 2 or 3 people, where they're like at 10 clips now, and every single one of these clips is fucking bullshit. As in, even if they're not actually cheating, something's going on in these demos that did not exist in CS 1.6, that did not exist earlier in CSGO, that I did not see, and you could not go back and make clips of that would look like this. And in fact, I'd love someone to do that. Go back to CS 1.6, get Forrest, get Neo, get Markelov, get Trace, some of the most skilled, dominant players of all time, and make me these aim lock clips. Use the aim lock function and show me them aim locking on people through walls and doing all this sort of insane suspicious where you lock on and then you pull it off a guy in a really weird way, or you go lock over and then you quickly go in like a different movement next, or you move one way slowly and then you move the other way twice as fast. Go and find me all these clips and let's see if it's some sort of demo bug, or let's see if it's just our own brain looking for patterns on something and coincidentally they go over the person, they don't know he's there, and our brain says he locked on. Let's find these things. I haven't seen them, and maybe I'm wrong in this sense. That's why I want someone to do it. But from what I see, this is crazy shit. And so from what I can see, just as a person looking at circumstantial evidence, I say these are some fucking suspicious clips. And that's one of the problems. Because when I watch these clips, unlike a lot of those people I was talking about in the industry, I really do shut off the other parts of my mind that want to say, this can't be, oh, that player's a really sick player. You've seen this player play in other games where he wasn't doing something. I shut off all that. I ignore all personal biases of who I do and I don't like as a player. I ignore all influences of who's in the past told me someone else cheated. Oh, this player can't cheat in this sense, or suspects that another person does, so why would someone on his own team be like that? I ignore all that, and I even, in my mind, try to take the nameplate off, and I just see the crosshair, I see the gun, and I see the enemy. And I try to think of the way the clip unfolds, whether it's suspicious. And I've seen clips that I think are very suspicious, or at least have no explanation so far that seems credible or reasonable to me. And so the person is either cheating or they're incredibly unlucky. They're incredibly unlucky in the sense that maybe somehow they are going over them a bunch of times through the wall. In which case, how does that happen to them only and not other people? Or they're very unlucky in as much as there's some demo bug which manifests for them but doesn't manifest for everyone else. Or does it? And can we show evidence of this? They're very unlucky or they're cheating. These seem to be the most likely scenarios. And so since I can't prove they're cheating, if it's not the case that they're most unlucky, we need to zero in on these people and really find out what the fuck's going on in this particular sense. Because it's the context of when these aim locks and other things are happening that I have a big problem with. Like, I've seen them happen in really crucial 1v1s. Why aren't these same aim locks happening in the full 5v5 all the time for that player? I've seen it happen in situations where it was like an elimination match and the guy had to win a couple of key rounds, otherwise his team's going to go out on this set map that they're not good on. Why is that going on? Why is it in that particular scenario that I see multiple aim locks on that one particular game when he really needs to do so? The worst part about this, as I mentioned in my other video, I think, is that the explanations and the alibis of the players themselves, other players in the scene, other industry people, and the fans of those players do not add up and do not match up and give kind of a plausible or legitimate explanation for what's going on in these clips. Like, they'll say, yeah, it's a coincidence. If it's a coincidence, why so few coincidences for other people? Why certain players who have nearly loads and loads of clips for them and almost next to none for other people? It's not even just that you can say, but that person, everyone thinks he's a cheater, so they keep looking at him. There's certain players who had way worse reps as being onliners and other players suspect them of cheating before aimlock clips existed, that like next to no clips exist for. There's certain players who are incredibly skilled and have a very fast flicking style of motion, or actually incredible game sense and do seem to read where their opponent is behind the wall without actually having a wall hack. Even those players don't have as many of those particular clips and aimlock clips. Like, think about Get Right, one of the best of all time at knowing where people are going to be to an almost psychic degree. Where the fuck are all this guy's aimlock clips in the era when he was doing all that and winning mad 1v4s and had like a 60% win rate in 1v2s? Where are the old school clips of like 2013 shocks in very games doing all this banana shit when he was just wrecking people with one taps all over the place, an insane ability to just take over a game from the mid round? Exactly when, if you'd have had all this stuff like this, it would have made the most sense that you'd have the clips of him. And you just can't find these clips back in the day in that particular sense. Forrester has one of the highest sensors and one of the skilled players of all time. Next to no clips during any of this guy's career. Most of them look very, very crap, the ones that people even do come up with, compared to other suspicious aim-lock clips in our community. So find us other players who aim-lock like that. There must be others who either use a low sense and lots of movements and therefore are doing the exact same sort of aim-lock and use the same alibi, or there must be some who have very high sense and do very fast movements and therefore their mouse spazzes out and they go over a person accidentally. Find us more of these people. Don't just give us rhetoric. Go out and yourself do a groundwork of research and find more evidence in this particular sense, because I suspect from how much effort a lot of people have put into finding clips, these clips don't exist. That's what it seems reasonable to me to expect. The context is also what makes it crazy, like I say, because of the fact that, yes, these are LAN games. These are the biggest tournaments. I understand the context that if these people are cheating, this is fucking nuts. Sure, they're going to win a lot of money, but it's nuts the idea that they would risk being banned or doing it in a massive scenario where it's a huge tournament on LAN and everyone's watching. In theory, an admin guy could look over and their teammate could even be like, oh, what's going on here? Sure, that is all totally crazy, but that doesn't change the fact that if the person is doing it, then they are doing it. You can't use the logic of like, well, why would anyone? Come on, mate, you could use that about anything. Why would some famous politician get caught in a fucking hotel room with an orange in his mouth with a fucking black hookers up his ass? Like, why the fuck would he do that? Yeah, I don't know why. Oh, wait, I do. It's because it's human nature and people are fuck-ups and they do shit like this and they do crazy things and they say one thing and they behave another way and they have risk-taking behavior. And sometimes they have self-destructive streaks within themselves and they do drugs and they do prostitution and they do illicit gambling and they do insider trading and they fuck everything up for themselves and they ruin their whole lives, and you could see it all coming. Think of like Wolf of Wall Street type shit. You could see it all coming and they still do it and they still have these drives and they still do these ridiculous things. And even in everyday life, people cheat on their girlfriend and people try to scam their taxes and people try to fucking steal stuff from their work and people try to look at porn on their phone in their office and get caught doing it. People do all this stuff that logically a robot sitting down would go, well, this would be illogical behavior to do, but they do it anyway. So that is irrelevant if that's the case. It's like the Sherlock Holmes thing. Once you have eliminated everything that is impossible, whatever that remains, however improbable, is something that you have to then look at and say, this could be happening. So I have to examine that and then see if I can eliminate that or whether it is in fact what's going on. It doesn't matter how improbable it may seem, it is possible, and therefore you have to consider it. Now, this whole thing about bad tick rate, demos looking shaky, that hasn't been, if these people who say that are such experts, they've done a very poor job of articulating to me, someone who I think is fairly intelligent and is quite open-minded to the notion that this could be some sort of bug if you can explain it well. They're doing a terrible job of explaining how that is, and a lot of them just come off as apologists again and give just use vague, tick rate, demos, aim also calculates like up until like, you've got to give me examples of this. Go find me other examples. Show me mathematically what's going on. Show me from a programming level what the problem here is. Also, maybe explain in the context of other games. Why doesn't this happen in other games? Why don't we have the problem in CS 1.6? Why is there not a problem in League of Legends of people thinking this stuff's happening online? One piece of rhetoric I don't want to ever hear again is that the player doesn't have a VAC ban, therefore they didn't cheat. Now remember, most people think Kaylee cheated a lot of time for many months, including on LANs. Yet Kaylee did not have a VAC ban. Therefore, that has invalidated that theory. When Kaylee got a VAC ban, as far as we know, he logged into Steam in the Titan house and he was VAC banned. Now, he claims he just went on one server and that's what resulted in his VAC ban. He used cheats on that one server. Now, we have no way of proving that what he said is incorrect there. We don't have any other evidence. So for all we know, he cheated in every LAN tournament ever. Maybe he cheated in no LAN tournaments. Maybe he really did just go on some servers. Maybe he only just started to cheat online with it. We'll never know. So the idea of him having a VAC ban is the only way you can prove he cheated is ridiculous, because until he had that VAC ban, you're saying many people, many pros even, are saying he did cheat in those other games, and yet he didn't have a VAC ban at the time. Also, VAC bans are not going to catch extremely well-programmed custom cheats, especially not a cheat that's like just for this person, or God forbid if that person himself was an expert programmer and coded it. Unless someone else happens to ape the same technique, they're not going to catch his cheat unless they have some in on how to catch him. And they're watching that one person specifically and they're looking for suspicious things that they can then modify and trigger down and catch what that guy is doing. And they're not doing that right now. They're just using VAC. I mean, the reason why the VAC ban example doesn't make sense is because if you use that logic, then imagine that in the middle of a major semi-final, a player just started speed hacking. He came out of spawn, he instantly was in your other team's spawn, and he knifed them all. Now, in that scenario, if you saw that happen, and you knew it wasn't a demo bug, and you knew it all happened in real time, would you say, well, doesn't have a VAC ban. I mean, VAC hasn't banned him, so obviously must not be cheating. This must just be legit. He can just run faster than every other model and kill everyone. No, it wouldn't logically make any sense, would it? So the problem here is, What are the solutions? So this is an issue. This is the reason why I saved this video and I was going to do it about the flusher topic, but I'm going to do it generally now. So I've thought of a few ways that we can catch these people outside of a software solution, because I don't have software solution. I'm not a programmer. I can't do that. That needs to be Valve. That needs to be tournament organizers who do that. Here's one of the ways. Now, one of the most simple ways, just to make it a bit harder, that even pros suggest when you talk about this issue. Oh, actually, let me just pause a second. Let me just talk about pros on this issue. Believe it or not, as I said, the majority of pros also think no one's cheating. And even if you show them clips, either they haven't seen the clips or they just dismiss the clip immediately and they won't even consider it no matter what the situation is. By the way, unfortunately, because a lot of them are friends with the person in the question and they also don't want to believe that they can be cheating. They think it's all just a coincidence and then maybe a clip was made about them. So therefore, even if they only have one clip, they think, oh, all the 10 other clips from that guy must also be an unfortunate mistake. So I won't jump on the bandwagon because I don't want that guy to get persecuted like I've got persecuted. But there's also some pros out there who do think others cheat. And if you talk to them privately, a few of them, they do think others cheat. First of all, some of them think that some people cheated only in the past and don't cheat anymore since this all came to light. Some think that people still cheat right now, and yet they will tell me, oh yeah, I know who you were talking about in that video, and they'll tell me that this person cheats. But then I'll go to them and go, actually, it's funny that you say that, because believe it or not, mate, it's people in your team, or it's a teammate, or it's a friend of yours who I think actually cheats. You're thinking of a different person, or I find very suspicious. And so in this scenario, what's amazing, I've seen cognitive dissonance even from the pros. Like, I've seen pros tell me, this person is suspicious, and I look, and it's a very specific type of aim lock. And then the person who's on their team or another pro that they're friendly with does the same sort of aim lock, and they're like, oh no, that's nothing actually, that's just an accident. And I'm like, wait a minute, so why are you telling me this guy who you dislike is the cheater in that sense? So you can see the problem in that sense. But anyway, one thing all pros do suggest as a baseline, even the ones who say no one cheats, is they think that you should have a brand new clean PC for every LAN match, and tournament organizer should bring new peripherals for you. Now, when you consider the tournament now has a $1 million prize pool, I think that's totally reasonable. Every game should play with a brand new mouse that's exactly the same specifications as your mouse, same model. Should play with a brand new keyboard, all this stuff. That would all be great. I think that would be a step forward. So that's one way. Now, there are other ways I've thought of, okay? So one, and I know this has been mentioned many times because I've mentioned it myself. One is I think that, and by the way, my solution to this is not to do it for everyone, but let's say we do it for everyone initially. I would suggest to look for the people who are suspicious and start doing it to their PCs without telling them. But I would say to have keyloggers on all the machines. Keyloggers that work with the timestamp. Because remember, you're only going on this PC to play the tournament match and that's it. You're not going on to go on Facebook and transfer stuff from your online banking and a message girlfriend. You're not going on to do any of that shit. So we're going to have a keyloggers on these machines with timestamps. And then all we're going to do is when an aim lock exists, we're going to have that log and we're going to go back in the demo, get the aim lock and go, right, it was at 9:47 and then it lasted 3 seconds, and he moved in this really weird way. We're going to go and look at 9:47, and we're going to ask what keys did the person press on their mouse, on their keyboard. Now we're going to look, is that bound to anything? Now we're going to look what went on there. That alone is going to tell us, not that he cheated, but that there's something suspicious going on there. If the key's being pressed, that's not being bound to anything. If he's doing some sort of weird movement that doesn't make sense in the sense of the keylogger, that's one way to do it. That's something I think we definitely should be thinking about. Another aspect is that we're going to put a camera. Again, this should probably be for the suspicious people. Put a camera at a certain angle which goes across so you can see his screen on part of it, all in the same shot, so it can't be taken out. It says the screen inside the shot and the person's hand. And now all we're going to do now is when there's a weird aim lock, there's going to be a really high-res camera, like reasonably close. We're just going to look at that footage, and we're going to look, does the hand movement match up with what happened on the screen? Does this look reasonable? Even that would help us then look again for suspicious things, to see is it legit, what's going on here. Wouldn't necessarily fix it all. Now, here's a key detail to point out, okay. Now, this is why my idea was for some specific players, and believe it or not, I gave this to their teams, and I told them, if you really believe 100% this guy doesn't cheat, you know he doesn't cheat, this is how you could not prove he doesn't cheat, because you can't do that, but you could at least make people think it's more reasonable that he doesn't. I told them these two things. Set up the camera and do the keylogger. And what I told them was, we're going to have this person play on this clean PC with the keylogger on and the camera set up. We're going to have them play for 1 or 2 days. And what they're going to play is, they're going to play CSDM, they're going to play matchmaking, they're going to play Face It, then they're going to play some scrims, they're going to play a few official matches. And what we're trying to do is just get a nice little sample size. Let's say like 30 or 40 matches worth. And ideally, we're hoping that they do make some aim locks in this area. Because if people can then show an aim lock, but I can then show you on the keylogger, nothing weird happened, look at the camera angle on the hand, nothing weird happened, it's on a brand new PC. If the aim locks happen, that makes it less likely that the aim locks are anything truly suspicious beyond just looking crazy elsewhere. Like, think about it. If that player, it really is part of his low sense, or the way he moves his mouse, or the way his just style of players, or his game sense, then actually it shouldn't be the case that we can record a load of this footage and have no suspicious clips. There should be aim locks. By their own logic, their own premise, which we're accepting for a second that they don't cheat, the aim locks happen naturally as part of their game. Therefore, the aim locks should be there. Likewise, players who had loads of aim locks in one period of time and now don't, or before had no aim locks and now have them, that's alone suspicious, right? What did they change? Why are they suddenly getting these aim locks? Remember that by their own logic, the aim locks aren't cheating, therefore the aim locks are just part of their normal game or a demo bug, and therefore the aim locks should be occurring even in this scenario where they can't be cheating. That's the whole logic that they've trapped themselves in by volunteering bad alibis or poor or inferior explanations as to what's going on. So, in this scenario, it's this point in the video where I call Valve out in a different way than I have done before. And it goes like this. Valve, if you care about esports, Counter-Strike Global Offensive esports, and you put on majors, and you want people to see that these are some of the best players in the world, and you promote these players, and you put forwards millions of dollars in prize money for them, and you want it to be an esport, which by all accounts, it seems like you do. Why do you allow these players to be hung out to dry by the community? Why do you allow so many people to think they are cheating, but on the basis of sketchy clips? Because remember, if it really was the case that demo bugs make an AWP shot look a certain way, or it's just some sort of mouse spaz that makes the person look like they went on someone through a wall, or it's just some pattern recognition that as a programmer you can see it's just the way a low tick rate demo goes by in jerky manner that made it look like the guy aim locked. If any of these are the case, you're the number one person who can solve it. Even if you don't come out with evidence, you can at least come out publicly and say, listen, I've seen a lot of concern about this, but these are certain demo bugs that exist. We can address it, and therefore, please don't blame the pros. Please don't witch hunt them. Like, they're not doing anything in that sense. We're quite vigilant about anti-cheat stuff, because it's a big problem for me that you're not doing this, that you're letting these players get hung out to dry, if they're indeed not cheating, and even worse, that there is no comparable scenario I am aware of in any other major esports game. And yet, where tons of top pros are suspected to be cheating, and people vocally in the community really do think that these are suspicious clips. And even worse, someone who's an expert like myself looks and goes, holy shit, pro players have insanely suspicious clips. And even worse, I go and talk to them privately, publicly, talk to teammates, talk to friends, talk to industry people, and all I'm getting is whack rhetoric that dances around the issue without addressing it, or even worse, terrible alibis and explanations for what's happening that don't match up unless we have someone come in with coding and programming expertise and cheat coding expertise to explain whether these things are truly suspicious or whether they're accidents and bugs. So Valve is someone who can do this, and they're not doing it right now, and that's actually quite disturbing to me. That's something I have a problem with. That's why I'm calling them out on this part of the video. Because here's the thing. If it turns out that there are cheaters, let's say we catch someone by my approach of like narrowing down who's suspicious, doing all this like key logging, all the rest of this shit, or even worse, we catch them by actually getting the right people involved. Like I said, that Valve could hire a cheating expert, someone who's got history in coding, put bonuses out there if they can catch people who are cheaters, who are pros. If they can do all this, here's the difference between me and a lot of those other industry people I know. A lot of those industry people will admit privately they are scared that if multiple people are found to be cheating, or any really high profile person beyond a Kaylee level, they are scared that CSGO will die. They are scared that the game will die. They're scared that all the negative publicity in the press and everywhere else means that the game will die. So here's the thing. I'm going to say this to you right now, Valve. If you do it, and it's not someone like me, because I can't, but if you catch these people cheating, or you know that's really heavily suspect this person's cheating by all your own methods and all the above mentioned, then at least you can go to them and either privately tell them, you have to retire now. I know what you've done. You have to retire now and stop playing. Give whatever reason you want. Don't tell people the real reason. I won't expose you. I won't take you to court. I won't fuck you over in any of these ways. But you must now retire because I know you're cheating in this way. Here's the evidence. Leave the scene now. Either do that to a few people, or even better, have an amnesty. Not better for me, but this is better for people who want to think of the industry and only care about the health of the industry. If you want the CSGO to remain a game and you're scared of this, get all those cheaters together. Get them all in a room and say, listen, see you, all you 5 people here now. Other people might have suspicious clips, but I know from the way this is going that you guys cheat. It's very, very likely you're all cheaters. So I'm going to tell you right now, you get one chance. Stop cheating right this instant. Go back to your teams, play normally, play as a pro, just use your own skill only, do not use any third-party software, and if I catch you, I will ban you or I will remove you from the scene some way. Otherwise, we're giving you this one chance. This is a one mad cheating amnesty where I'm going to let you off and you're just going to get to play even though I know you probably did it. Now, personally, I wouldn't do either of those approaches. You know what I would actually do? If any of these people cheat, I'll tell you something, okay? I've lived with people who were CS pros in 1.6. I've spent time living with them as roommates. I've been to their houses many times. I've played games with them. Some of these players can do all that shit that they do in the most amazing matches, in random online matches, on someone else's PC without even their mouse set up properly. There are phenoms out there. There are incredible talents in games, not just Counter-Strike, but Counter-Strike especially, that can do all these things. I know it's not necessary. So as a result, if there are a few cheaters out there in the scene, I would say ban them. I would say expose them. I would say let us know and show us evidence that these people are cheating. Show us how they're cheating, where they're cheating. Remove them and make sure that you have a system in place to catch future people and some sort of a squad or someone in charge of that sort of thing. Because yeah, if it was up to me, even if someone came to me tomorrow and said, we've got all the evidence, it's all proven, Valve knows, but the problem is it's on you, okay. They say that if you tell them to go ahead with it, they're going to ban all these people outright. But the problem is, Thorin, there's 50 people. There's 50 top pros who we've got all this evidence against. And if you ban 50, it's going to be so much negative press. Everyone's going to have all these news articles about it in like USA Today. Everyone's going to be like, oh, fuck CSGO, I'm not watching that game. Even if they came to me and said that, 50 people, you know what I would say? Burn it to the ground. Burn the whole fucking thing to the ground if there are 50 people. If that's the choice, is to purge the 50 people now, to get them out and to never have all the bullshit that they did count as part of CS history and to start anew, maybe with a smaller scene, maybe with a reduced amount of money in the scene, maybe with some tournament organizers pulling out, but as long as there was still a scene that could just naturally exist without cheating, I would say burn those people. I would say burn it all to the fucking ground if that's what it takes to have a legitimate scene and a scene in which we actually take this as a serious problem and we don't just cast it off as something that doesn't matter in any particular sense. Now, I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to be the case. That's why I say, since it's in Valve's responsibility, there are lots of different options to do here where you don't have to go as extreme as that. And you can maybe think more about your bottom line and the dollar if that's indeed what matters to you. Because if it's not ethics, I mean, it apparently isn't ethics, because if it's ethics, why aren't you coming out and defending people you know don't cheat? If you've got proof of it in any way, if you can show some kind of plausible alibis to what's going on in these weird demo clips, apparently it's not about ethics. It's not about stopping people doing something that you think is wrong or is bullshit or shouldn't be allowed. It's just about the bottom line. So I'm even giving you a way to help your own self-interest, but to get rid of this as well. Now, the big problem is, after all I've said now, it really could still be the case that none of these people cheat. It could be the case that there are no cheats at the top pro level. But in that scenario, there are just these absolutely insanely suspicious clips that no one can explain from the same players again and again. So I would at least like an explanation for those. I'd like someone to start approaching them, and that means not turning your eyes away from that. That means not averting your gaze. That means people or programmers involved getting involved and trying to figure out what the fuck's going on here. Not least just to show these people don't cheat, but to mean that the next guy doesn't get fucked over. Because if it can really happen to anyone, if that was true, then I don't want tomorrow to wake up and some incredible young talent who's just come into the scene and he hasn't had his chance to fully prove himself and to build that fan base that protects you from people saying you should be kicked out, to have the worst clips ever, and then teams to be like, maybe stay clear of it. I don't want that to happen. I want to protect these pros who I know are legit and give them a chance to have the scene. And also, if it's in case that there's not actually anything going on here, I'd like to know that. I wouldn't like to have this suspicion in the back of my mind. It's not paranoia when you constantly see the clips over and over and they just have no good explanation. So I don't want this to exist. So at the moment, all I can say when I look at these players is, these are really suspicious to me, and this explanation is whack that you're giving me. It doesn't add up. So as a result, I do think they're suspicious. I want people to narrow down on that, and I want it to be from the software end down. Yes, let's have tournament organizers do all these things. Let's have us gather extra evidence. Let's look for who's suspicious. But let's also get the software approach. So that means Valve getting involved, and that means everyone in this scene actually at least thinking about it. Now, don't go the other way and just call people cheaters because you saw a crazy clip. You aren't smart enough, whoever fuck's watching this video right now, likely to know that person's cheating, or to even have a clue in it. Just because you're like, well, I matchmaking, like, you're not one of the best players in the world. But these are suspicious things and should at least be open-minded and think about them and ask, is it possible?